Are you tired of the cookie-cutter approach to education that's stuck in the last century? Are you seeking a win-win situation where your family thrives, your kid's education is revolutionary, and you still get to chase your own dreams? Welcome to Unschooled Unleashed. Unlock your child's genius. I'm your host, Matthew Jarecki, an unapologetic rebel dad and promoter of what many consider to be educational anarchy. You know the world isn't going to be won by those that just toe the line. It's the innovators, the visionaries, and the resilient spirits that are going to thrive. Our mission here is to forge those world changers within our very homes with less stress, energy, and time. Unschooled Unleashed starts now. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Unschooled Unleashed. I'm your host, Matthew Jarecki, and today we're talking about New Year's. We're talking about a fresh start. It's 2025. Here we go. It's time to recommit to unschooling principles, make some progress on your life, and reconnect with the family. It's going to be a great year, so here is a whole episode about how to make it a great year. So with that, let's dive in. Today we're talking about how to start the new year off fresh, unschooling with intention. My goal with today's episode is to inspire and guide everyone who's listening in creating an intentional and fulfilling start to the new year. I always find that January 1st is just this nice natural start to change things up. So I'm hoping to encourage you to embrace unschooling principles that foster growth, curiosity, and family connection, because I do believe that that would refresh your 2025. At least I think it'll refresh my 2025. So like I said, the new year is a chance to reflect, reimagine, and reset. And that's the way I like to look at it. I know a lot of people get down on these New Year's resolutions and all this stuff, but what better time than January? I don't know. After you get through the holidays, it just seems like a natural point where you welcome the new year and you get to imagine your 2025. I think it's the perfect opportunity to align our unschooling journey with what matters most in this new year. So instead of like rigid resolutions that add pressure, instead, we focus on building a life that's filled with learning, exploration, and meaningful moments. And that's what I hope my 2025 is filled with. So this episode is going to help you start the year energized, hopefully curious. I think that's why you're listening to this podcast, and ready for new adventures. And that's what I like to think of my life as, is a series of just adventures. You know, there's ups and downs, but we make it to the other end. So let's start off with where I start, which is vision. So vision, what do we have what do we see in our 2025? I think vision is incredibly important. I personally break down my vision into small chunks, but then expand it out over 10 years. Now, it changes a lot, but I keep on getting closer and closer to what I want out of life. So if you keep that focus on it, don't stress about being completely accurate. Just have a vision for your future. Start off big. Start off with where you're at the end of your life and you're happy you did something with your life that was positive. What is that? Okay, and then start to work backwards from there. Once you do that, you can break it down to, say, 5 years or 3 years. Honestly, my 10-year vision isn't that elaborate. It speaks in a lot of generalities because I don't have it all ironed out yet. But again, I'm getting clearer. But if you back it down to 5 to 3 years, somewhere in between there, or around there, you start to get more of a vision of your future. And then if you back it down to a year, which is what we're talking about, then it starts to become a lot more clear because you can envision what you can get done in a year a lot easier than you can in 10. We just don't have that sense of time and energy applied over that time. Anyways, once you envision what that 2025 is, then break it down into months. Maybe you have some goals within the months, maybe like quarterly or something like that. But I suggest that you start just focusing in without adding any added pressure for unschooling, just what your week looks like. What are you going to wake up and commit to do every day? Picture what a meaningful day looks like in your home and focus in on that. Are your kids experimenting? Are they reading? Are they building? Are they exploring outside? Are you traveling with them and pointing out the different geology and taking part in different experiences? Really focus in on that and try and wake up within the day, within the present, and do that. Oftentimes it helps to have some kind of vision board. So I have stuff up in my office that has pictures of things that I want. I don't have everything. I'm not a huge vision board guy. I'd like to be more into it, but I find that a picture is much more motivating. So what I've done with some of my stuff is I've drawn it out because I really have a hard time finding a picture that actually represents what I want. If I see one, I capture it, but I draw out what I want. For example, right now I'm looking at a box truck that's converted into an RV because that's what I'm working on right now, and we hope to travel in 2025 in that. And the background is mountains, and we're on the road, so that means we're not in the Midwest, which is where I live. So we're on the road, we're traveling. I have a little music notes above it, and because the kids are having a great time, they're listening to music, they're singing, and then out of the side of the window where there's three heads, because I got three kids, an excited word box pops up and it says, "Look what I just saw, Dad." That's my vision. That's what I want. That's what I'm working for. We're going to have a great time. I got hearts coming out of the front seat with me and my wife, and that RV is just chugging along. That is an example of vision, because that's what we're working towards. And all the little pieces are going to come together because of that. So we just take it day by day. We're not trying to put too much pressure on ourselves to make this happen on a strict timeline, because we have no idea how long this is going to take, but we are working towards it. And I do think pictures in my case help. Moving on, reconnecting with unschooling principles. I think this is going to help in the new year, because sometimes we lose focus. We get a little bit scared and we start to stray away from unschooling because we want to guarantee stuff, right? The reason I think I lean into unschooling so much is because I like to control things. So me backing off and not controlling things, one, is an exercise, but two, probably gives a nice blend of me jumping in and trying to control things every once in a while and not controlling things. But I do want to recommit to the unschooling principles, which is child-led learning, interest-based learning, and what I want to personally focus on is flexibility over rigidity. So let's dive into this. Child-led learning. Trust in your children to pursue what excites them. So it's child-led. They're going to pick what they want. They'll often surprise you, I think, with their focus and curiosity. For example, my kids are interested in math. That's one thing that's been continually popping up. Physics is coming up now. Engineering, these types of things. That is, to me, the essence of what I'm going after. It's they're interested in things that matter to them. And fortunately for me, they're interested in things that I think are going to be very useful in the future. So I think that's a great thing in my case. Now, there's a lot of stuff they're interested in that isn't, in my opinion, but who knows? Maybe that passion of building stuff with, or maybe playing Super Smash Brothers might turn into a big skill one day, like they're flying drones around or something. I don't know. Trying to think outside the box here. Anyways, life can't be all work, so Super Smash Brothers is fine. Next, that I want to, if we're trying to reconnect with the unschooling principles and commit to those in 2025, interest-based learning. Interest-based learning. So what is that? Interest-based learning is what the kids find interesting, right? They're going to follow their interests. You're not only going to allow them to choose what they learn, but you're also going to allow them to just choose whatever that they find interesting. Sometimes it gets a little foggy in my head, the difference between child-led learning and interest-based learning and why we always separate those out. But, you can, one, let your child learn about what they're interested in, but you restrict it down to just a couple things. that would just be interest-based learning. But if you allow the child to choose what to learn, then you have child-led learning. So it's child-led learning and interest-based learning combined. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, believe in a brand or a version of unschooling that I've termed intentional unschooling, which means I'm going to try and steer my children into things that I think that are valuable, because I believe my job as a parent is to guide my children and not just let them flail around trying to figure everything out. Like there's definitely a time for that, but there's also a time for guidance. And I think that exposing them to things that are potential interests that they might be interested in is something that we should do as parents. It's part of what I call intentional unschooling. We also provide the resources to our children to learn more about those things that they are interested in. So that's where I think the responsibility of the parent really comes in. And with us doing unschooling, we're opening up quite a bit of time in our day to be able to focus on things that might be important, that you think are important to your children's future, but also let them focus on things that they believe are just interesting and they just want to learn about. And that's totally fine. We got plenty of time when we unschool. And lastly, I mentioned flexibility over rigidity. This is especially important to me, and maybe this is just for me, I don't know. But be open to pivoting if something doesn't work. For example, if something feels very overwhelming, or there's something that you would like to do that you think would be beneficial for the child, and it's just too much work in the moment, maybe push that off over to the next season. Maybe get rid of it completely. Maybe reevaluate whether we even really want to do this, or if we just feel pressure to do something, right? Those are the kinds of things that I want to focus on into the new year. In addition to not freaking out when my kids don't want to do something that I think is productive. Again, that flexibility over rigidity. Moving on, reflect on lessons from last year. I believe we should take time to reflect on what worked and what didn't work in our 2024. Were the routines that we had, were they more stressful, or were they unnecessary? Were they very productive? What worked, what didn't, right? Identify the expectations that you might have had that you missed, and why you might have missed those. What could you do differently to actually meet those expectations? Or maybe remove the expectations and just go with the flow. That your expectations may be holding you down. Not quite sure. So some reflective prompts that I might ask myself are, what felt like a struggle? What was really, really hard for me to do that didn't give me much bang for my buck on the other end? What didn't give me much what didn't produce much on the other end that was really hard? I might consider getting rid of that. What's one thing that I can simplify or let go of? What's, something that's very labor intensive maybe, that I can just kind of make one step instead of 10? Or just say, you know what, this isn't even worth doing. Another question might be, what moments felt meaningful? Where did I feel most connected to life? Like I really felt like I was living. What did I find joyful? I think these are great questions to ask into the new year. What am I willing to do that I wasn't last year for my kids' education, for my kids' upbringing? We don't just really think about it as just education. We think about it as just raising adults, right? Raising productive, healthy, and whole adults. I think that's some good things to ask yourself. And really what I try and focus on is, again, going beyond just this year. I try and focus in on out 10 years and really try and figure out where I want it to go, and then bring it back into the week. Or even the day, really. Moving on, celebrate growths and wins. I think this is really important. I think you need to recognize, big or small, the wins. I think it builds confidence. It reinforces the joy of being productive or learning something. if your child did something cool, like if they baked their first cake or made their first big Lego creation that they got for Christmas, that's like a boat or a helmet or, something. Or maybe they learned to ride a bike. Like, celebrate those things. Celebrate them. Make them, connect those dots with your children. And not just your children, for you too, that this is progress. This is growth. I think it's really important to just highlight those things, because I think it builds confidence in children when they have someone else recognize their progress. And they're going to make progress. They're growing kids. Some ways to celebrate are, having them do a dance. That's what we do. We just tell them, take a victory dance. And they just get down, we put on some music, and we have a little dance party sometimes. Sometimes it's running around in the house in circles and giving high fives. Sometimes it's a dinner. Maybe it might be going out to eat. Might be, hey, we're going to celebrate by doing a movie tonight. All different types of ways to celebrate. When they're proud of what they did and you highlight it, it really, I think, builds that connection with your kids, and makes them desire to continue to grow, and that learning something hard and new is worth it. That's just part of life. Moving on. Emphasize real life learning for the year ahead. So for 2025, learning can happen anywhere. This can be in trips and chores and conversations. And what I suggest, or what we do, I should say, is we are planning experiences that are going to expand our children's world. So we might visit different cities, go to their museums, go to the historical sites. We might even just go to a farmer's market locally. We might volunteer. And I think volunteering helps to teach responsibility and empathy. We tried to volunteer this season to do something, and it just blew up in our face, because we like to do that around the holidays especially. I used to make volunteering something that I did on a regular basis. I decided to scale it back by quite a bit, because I was doing a lot for a better part of a decade, more than a decade. And when I had kids, it's just, hey, you got to prioritize. I got work, I got kids, I got a wife, I got financial stuff, I got this, that. I put in a lot of time before that volunteering, but I think it is important to at least keep involved in that, even if you're busy. And I need to do better about that. And I haven't done much of that lately. Been feeling kind of overwhelmed, believe it or not. It's been very, very busy. Moving on. Let's see here. Oh, before I move on, everyday learning activities. So just make the entire world a learning opportunity. Grocery shopping becomes a budgeting and nutrition lesson. Cooking becomes experiment with chemistry and math. These are kind of generic examples, but it's something to just get started with if you're not already doing it. We often have something come across on TV, or maybe we're talking about something in front of them and they ask questions about it, then we'll explain it. Might even put on something on TV that supports them asking more questions, and then we just discuss through it. So all different ways to spark some conversation and do some learning in real time. Moving on, renew your role as a 10 out of 10 supportive parent. Again, when we look at intentional unschooling, one of the main foundations of intentional unschooling, if you don't know what that is, go back and listen to one of my early episodes that defines it out. Parents are going to take a 10 out of 10 supportive role. They're going to expose kids to new experiences. They're going to provide the tools for success and offer encouragement over perfection. So when we expose our kids to new experiences, our hope is they find something new that they might enjoy. We don't want them to be very, there's a phrase for it or a word, but we don't want them to be sheltered. That's the word. We want to expose them to a lot within the world. Obviously, there's limitations to that for sure, especially with younger children, but we want them to understand the world and the way it works. And I would rather my children learn from me than from social media or their friend who thinks they're informed or their whoever it might be, their professor who has an agenda to do whatever. I don't know. I would like to at least introduce them to it, and then they can make their own decisions, hopefully weighing things, critically thinking carefully. So I want to get my kids out to different things that might expand their horizons. We might go on nature hikes. We might go to, different kind of quote unquote maker spaces. Like they have those in the museums where kids can build and like they engineer things. We might get them in summer camps that do that kind of stuff. So our goal is to expose them to things. Homeschooling groups do this too. And one of my kids are going to be doing theater this semester. They wanted to do it. They wanted to learn acting. I can't remember what the other ones are doing. That was the one that stuck out. But really, really cool stuff, kind of expanding their horizons. Part of our job is also to provide tools for success. We need to equip our children with resources that match their interests, whether it's art supplies, science kits, language learning apps, or times with someone who can mentor them on that, whatever they're interested in. All of these things are things we can do to help them grow. We don't want to restrict their growth. We want to help them grow as fast as they're comfortable with. And again, we're going to offer encouragement over perfection because mistakes are a part of the learning process. We need to encourage our children along the way because it's going to be discouraging at times. They're going to be novices at everything, and they get started, they mess up, they have to continue to move on. So we offer encouragement over perfection. We don't want to nail them down for not being perfect. We want to ask, what did you learn? Hey, look at that. You did that. Say with the math problem. Nope, that's not the answer, but look what you did here. This over here, walk me through. You got this step, this step. That's all great. What happened here? This right here is, I don't understand this part. Walk me through it. Oftentimes they'll even figure it out. But you don't want them to feel the expectation of being perfect, which one of my children strongly feels perfection is the only way. And we struggle with that because I don't think that's the mindset that we want for the future. I struggle with that too. I'm kind of, I don't want to say kind of, I struggle with perfectionism. And I think it's a gift and a curse at the same time because, we can create some really cool things, but we can also get tied up and never create anything because we're focused on one thing being perfect. So it's a give and take in relationship with that. And I want to encourage, at least in the learning process, not to be perfect, and that making mistakes at an accelerated rate can actually lead to success as well. Moving on, create intentional family traditions. So I think that family traditions are one of the fun things about being parents. Traditions build connection and reinforce a sense of belonging, our own unique identity. It can be seasonal, annual things that you do, to mark your learning journey, or just family journey. We're all going through on this planet spinning around at X amount miles per hour, and time passes, and it's nice to just pause and reflect on the time of year or whatever you want to make it, you can make it. So, for example, one of the things that we do to create that sense of, I hesitate to say belonging, but it kind of is. We do it as a family. It's something we always do together. Every time it snows, or not every time it snows, every time the first snowfall happens, we go out to the lake. We live on Lake Erie, so one of the largest lakes in the world. And we look at this huge lake, which looks like an ocean from our perspective, because you can't see, it looks like the ocean when you look at it. And it's rocky and it's cold, and we just go out there and look at how cold it can be. And then we come back to the nice warm house, get hot chocolate. My wife bakes some homemade chocolate chip cookies. And we sit around and we try and watch a movie when we do it. Oftentimes we run late into the evening and we might not be able to, but we try and watch a movie with it. But we enjoy some family time together. And it's just one of those unique things that we don't really know when it's going to pop up, but when it pops up, we do it. We also do different things around the holidays. We just kind of have fun when we do things. So, moving on, some actionable tips for you guys. So, I think that a morning reflection practice where you spend maybe just like 5 minutes journaling, planning out your day, that kind of stuff, reflecting on the previous day, is going to be very helpful. So that might actually propel you forward. One of the things that I often do when I'm most successful, I'm doing this daily, is writing down my accomplishments for the day. What did I do good? What did I try? Even if I failed, it might be a good thing I tried. And what can I do better? And I just list all that stuff out. So it might be something as simple as I got out of bed before 9 o'clock. That might be something to celebrate that day. And then what can I do better? Well, go to bed earlier because it's hard to get out. I'm still tired. That's an example. And then what you do at the end of the day, or you plan out your day. And honestly, this is the first step. So when you wake up in the morning, you plan out what you want to get done. After you've reflected on the previous day, read through what you did great and what you can improve on. You plan out that day. You maybe get some journaling stuff out of your head, and then you go out through that day. Then you write down everything that you accomplished or you did great that you're proud of, something you want to celebrate. You celebrate it, and you also have the ways you can improve, and then you just do it all over again. And often this comes down to pulling stuff out of a weekly plan that I have. And I'll either break it down monthly or quarterly where I'm trying to make progress on those goals coming from my annual plan. Without making this a podcast about goals, I'll just leave it there. Also, declutter and refresh. Clear out unused materials, create inviting learning spaces. We're actually going to build a desk in our dining room. It's going to be attached to the wall because we live in a very small place, so it's going to be retractable. And that's a way to get more dedicated learning spaces, family field trips. You can go to museums together, get out and travel, go on hikes, go on, get them involved in different things. You can simplify your schedule by trying not to commit to so many things. Only commit to things that align with your vision. Learn how to say no. Prioritize connection and exploration over, maybe just something that has a total productivity goal. And throwing something out there, but let your kids write down stuff that they want to explore in 2025. And we could call it an interest jar, and you put stuff in there, and then you pull it out, and then you learn about that stuff throughout the year, and however you want to do it. It could be by the week, it could be by the day, but throw a whole bunch of stuff in there, maybe by the month. And I think that would be a new way or a fun way to do 2025. So with that, I'll end today's episode. So stay curious, stay unschooled, and stay away from the algebra nightmares. I'll catch you in the next episode. So here's where we roll up our sleeves and bring out the big guns. If you support our mission, then please leave a review. On Unschooled Unleashed, we are talking about using a radical approach to education in today's world, and the more 5-star reviews we have, the more people will feel comfortable with the ideas, strategies, and principles we discuss. It gives legitimacy to our message, and the podcast's algorithm prioritizes us so we can reach more people. You may even have your 5-star review read on our podcast. Before I let you go, I have to pause and say this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Your presence here is the fuel that ignites this movement. I am incredibly moved that you trust in us enough to click play. You, my friends, are the caped heroes in this story, the guardians of your family's learning journey, and a beacon of hope for your community. Be bold. Do what you think is best for you and your family. Thanks again for tuning in and taking this courageous leap outside of the box for this educational revolution. Welcome to the front line.